Good morning. I'm Lynn, and welcome to another day at Ewetopia Farms. Everybody's waiting for me to go into the barn, including Buddy. He's wondering where his food is. So let's go in and feed him and see what else is happening in the barn. Start the day with Arnie. Looks like he's had a pair of lambs here. Hi, Mommy.
I'm not dogging it, am I?
No, I'd say you're sheeping it.
And what is that little nose there? Is that a black nose?
What's with the black noses,
Well,
Arnie?
some people complained about we had pink noses.
They did?
Yeah. These guys are black noses, look.
I don't remember that, but
Yeah, somebody said, what's with the pink nose and a Suffolk? Remember? But
they can have pink noses, but
these are jet black.
the really, really black ones tend not to. But when they get older, none of them have pink noses. That would be a definite fault.
Anybody
What
else?
are they, boys or girls?
Oh, that's no retirement there.
It's a girl?
Yeah. And this one here, I'm gonna guess, just by the size of this one here, it's a male. How much on a bet?
He's just dipping them now.
See? Oh, actually, I gotta look at the. Hang on a second. So that female has a lot more bone than the other female. What do you got here? Oh, two females, two money makers, son.
You think so?
Yeah, these guys. This is why we're not gonna retire.
Two females.
How about-
So they were born just now. And then
They were born
these two were just born now too, as you can see by her placenta still hanging out.
That's a little bit of mange on her tail there. See?
Yeah.
We used to have that on the cattle. We used to call it mange, but I'm not sure what it is. But
We'll have to treat that.
just spray some stuff on it. She's didn't check her teeth.
And she has two lambs as well. So we talked about it being a lull and that a storm was coming. And so these two right now, this one came last night as we were heading off to bed. Hi. And he looks awfully sparky. Well, it's another girl. Look at her hopping around the pen already. Whoops, she clapped.
If that lamb is doing that, you know it's being fed.
Well, this one, yeah.
He's fine.
Hi. She's a first timer.
Look what friend of this guy.
This mom has a low bag, so she has plenty of milk, but her lambs have to be a little more crafty to figure out where the nipple is and stuff. So I'll check him as I feed everybody. And then these two had those two late yesterday afternoon. Did we show we showed these two being born, didn't we? These were
This all happened in the last 12 hours.
Yeah.
So one.
So you
two,
see, he's trying to get to the nipple, but you can see that he's missing it. So I'm going to give him a little help right now.
That's 1, 2.
So we just got back from groceries. We had to get a few things in town today. And when we got back, nobody else had any lambs yet, although there's a lot of girls looking really close. So Arnie's still removing manure from the coverall. And I thought, since nothing was happening, I'd talk to you about what our sheep rotation looks like, why we do it that way, and what's involved. So basically, it all starts in the lambing barn. So basically, the ewe has her lamb in here, or lambs. And once she's had her lambs, we remove her from the group pen We do this for several reasons. We don't want mismothering to happen, another ewe to steal the lamb, for a lamb to wander off and get neglected and it dies, or in a group like this it can easily get trampled. So many things can go wrong when you're doing confinement lambing at this time of year when it's really cold. So we have the lambs in here, which is a nice cozy area for them. But once they've had the lambs, as I'm sure many of you have seen, we walk them into the main barn here, and we have lambing jugs set up along this half of the barn. Right now they're looking pretty empty, which in a way is kind of nice, in a way it's not. But for work it's very nice. So each of these jugs is 6 by 6. Some people have them a lot smaller than that, but we have very big sheep and we tend to have at least twins. So we like to have the bigger jugs for them. We prefer the jugs on this side because lambs can go under these feeders and lie down. That way there's less chance of them getting sat on or stepped on when mom's eating her food. We call these lambing jugs, and I don't know why they're called lambing jugs. We were always told that's what they were, and it's the term we've always used. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or a North American thing, but I know in other countries like the UK, I believe they call them claiming pens. But whatever, it's all the same thing. It is a pen where a mom and her lambs are put for a few days in order, basically, for the farmer to monitor that everything is going well. So what we're going to be doing in these lambing jugs is we're going to make sure that the mom and the lambs are bonding together. The mom's not rejecting a lamb. The lamb's figuring out how to nurse, because you'd think by instinct these things naturally happen, but they don't. In the majority of cases they do, but this way we can make sure everything's good and help them along if they need it. It's also a time for the mom to have a break with her lambs while she's bonding. So she's just been through the ordeal of lambing. This gives her some quiet time to just focus on herself and her lambs and not have to worry about fighting over feed and trough space and looking for her lambs, because they're all right here with her. Her food's here, her water's here, her lambs are here. She doesn't have to stress about anything. So once we can see that the lambs are nursing on their own and mom seems to love them, then we're going to tag the lambs. We're going to dock them. We're going to give them a selenium E shot. We're going to give them some Baycox for coccidiosis. And they'll be recorded. And mom is going to get her hoofs trimmed and she's going to be dewormed. And then they are going to be released from the jug. And the amount of time we leave them in here depends on how well they're doing in this pen. So as a general rule, we use the number of lambs as the guide. So if she has a single lamb, she's going to be in here about a day. 2 lambs, 2 days, 3 lambs, 3 days. Now, if there's any type of complication whatsoever, she's low on milk, not bonding well, the lambs aren't figuring out how to nurse, things like that, they'll stay in longer. But that's the rule we use if all is going well. When we have determined that all is well, we will put them into these, what we call family groups. On this side right now, we have our white sheep, and on this side we have Suffolks. So in general, the rule is with these 2 pens is that we gather up 10 ewes from the jugs with their lambs and put them in this family group area. And the purpose of the family group is for the ewes and the lambs to get used to being with other ewes and lambs. And again, it can be an adjustment. In a group, lambs can get lost if the mums aren't the most talkative moms. And some mums will kind of just ignore the lambs in a group area. But it allows them to get used to a small group. They get to see how sheep behave together, and they learn how to be flock animals. And they usually really enjoy these small groups. As you could see, the lambs there running and hopping around. We usually leave play areas in for the lambs. They like to do that. With lambs, it's all about playing. And occasionally there'll be a mom trying to relax and chew her cud. And I told you about those abusive lambs. They're abusive to the mums too. They'll hi mommy. This one over here, she's trying to take her time out, and obviously those aren't all her lambs, but she's fair game because she's laying there, so everybody's using her as a jumping box. And when they first go in the group pen, they don't want other lambs around them, and they can actually hit other lambs, and it is a learning process to get along together. But once they're used to it and they're calm, then they're fine with everybody. So basically, when we have 10 ewes in each pen, we'll move them over to the coveralls at that point. We don't like to put more than 10 in at a time, just because it gets a little too crowded. And when we're feeding grain, we don't want any lambs to get stepped on or anything. However, this group here right now has 12 in. Only because I know that Arnie's cleaning out the barn and they're going into a fresh pen in the coveralls with no other sheep at all. So this group doesn't really have any adjustments to make when they get into the new barn, because this is their group. And when they get there, it'll be the same group. But normally, we'd be moving a group of 10 into a group that may already be established. We might have another group of 10 that had went in there first, or we might have another group of 20 because 2 groups have gone in ahead, and in the coveralls, we have groups of 30. So the first group being moved over always has the easiest time of it because they've already gotten used to their little cohort in this barn. But if they are going into a pen where another cohort is already established, then they have to again adjust to other lambs, other moms, and the new environment. So it's a constant learning process, and it takes a while for them to get used to that. So that's what the point of the family group here is anyway. Before I move on to the coveralls, the other thing I should mention, it's not just moms and lambs we're watching to adapt to each other in these jugs. We are also watching that the lambs know each other, because when they go in the family groups, we want the family group to stay together. So as you can see, Mom is laying with her 2 lambs, and those 2 lambs will know each other. And when they get into the bigger pens, they'll run around and play with the other lambs. But inevitably, when it's nap time, the lambs will cozy up together, and usually they'll cozy up with Mom too. So we want the whole family group to be well adjusted and know each other before we send them into a larger group. And once we have the family group of 10 ready to come over, we bring them over to these coveralls. Hi, little one. You aren't in your correct pen, are you? So when we have that family group of 10, we will either walk them across the barnyard to the coveralls if the weather permits. Otherwise, we will load them up into the trailer and we'll bring them over here. These coveralls are divided up into quarters. In this coverall, we have all the Dorset and Dorset crosses on one side, and we have Suffolks on the other side. And in the middle of each group, there's a dividing wall. So the first 30 ewes would have started off in the whole pen, but once we had 30, they'd get pushed to the back, a wall is put up, and then the next 30 are brought in 10 at a time. And that is the number that we have determined works best for our barns. We did try it initially at 50 ewes per group, and we found that didn't work well. For cleanliness reasons. It was harder to keep clean, and it was harder to prevent things like coccidiosis. And now it is rare that we get coccidiosis, so the groups of 30 works for us, and that's how we do it. So if you've been watching our channel, you'll know that as of right now, this coverall is full. We have 30 ewes per quarter, except for this last quarter. We had 2 extra Suffolks, so we just put them in here because it was convenient. So this side actually has 2 extra, but that won't make a difference in the whole barn. And now we just let these groups get used to the group. And we're around February 14th, maybe Valentine's Day, we're gonna take the dividing walls down on each side. And at that point, the barns will be reconfigured. All the lambs will be eating creep feed at the front of the barn here, and we'll bring the creep feeder at the back up to the front to join this one. And there will be a dividing wall into the creep area, and all the ewes will stay at the back of the barn. The lambs will be free to come to the front to the creep area or go to the back with their moms. But then they have basically 140 feet to run and play in, and that's when the lambs really have fun. But we do give them a time to acclimatize to a large group before we do take that wall down. And then when the wall comes down, even when there is, twice as many lambs and ewes running around, the moms and lambs are quite comfortable. They know who their mom is, and you don't have any problems after that point. So that, like I said, this coverall is full now. But we still have a lot more sheep to have lambs. And that's what Arnie's working on now. We've got Dorset ewes in this barn, the fall lambs and the adults. But this is where our replacement ewes currently reside, with all the replacement ram lambs. So Arnie's just finishing off cleaning this out, because before we put new sheep into a barn, we want to make sure that everything's totally cleaned out for them, because these are new lambs. So as you can see, he's almost done now. We're right down to the sand gravel. All this manure is taken away and it's put on our platform, and when Arnie has some spare time and the fields are in good condition for driving on, he will take that manure and spread it over our crop fields. Does not get spread on hay fields because there could be parasite eggs in that manure, and we don't want our hay or our pastures to have parasites added to it. So it goes on the crop fields. So when he's done this, we'll put fresh bedding down, and for now these are our Suffolk and Dorset replacement ewes that we kept back from last year. So these are all just a year old now. Hi, girls. So they're, for now, going to end up in the back half of this barn. Right now they've been kind of spoiled. They've had the entire barn to themselves. But they're going to go to the back. And the next group of 10, the family group of Suffolks that are there, which I said we have 12 in that group right now, they're going to come over here tomorrow, and they're going to be on this front half. And where those feeders are, we're going to make a creep area for the lambs. And they'll be up here with these ewes on the back. The ewes will stay here until we have the pen at the front filled with the 30. And once that pen's full, these ewes will be moved to another barn out the back door. This front group of lambs and the group of 30 will be moved to the back. And we'll start again with a group of 10 until we get that group of 30. And that's how we do it. We've tried different numbers, different configurations, but that is definitely what's working best for us. Hi! You guys are the very pretty ones. You guys are the pretty ones. And we could have moved these guys right out of the barn and let the new group have free range in here until they got to 30, but because we still have cold temperatures at night, we're keeping these girls in the back just for added heat. I think there's 40, 45 maybe ewes here, and that will give a lot of extra heat to the barn if we need it. It's easy enough to cool the barn down by cracking open doors, but if we get cold snaps, we have no way to heat it up except for sheep. So these guys are our built-in heaters for now, and by the time they go out, I expect we'll be into the spring, and hopefully we won't be seeing those cold temperatures anymore. And of course, Sally the Shetland's in here too. Hi. I just stopped to tell Arnie that I was heading in now to make dinner, and he turned the skid steer off to talk to me for a second, and he went to turn it back on, and now it won't start. Yeah, it never fails. Gotta love farming. Anyway, the sun is starting to set, so I'm heading off to the house. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you'll join us again tomorrow for the next episode at Ewetopia Farms. Bye for now.